Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Jearlean, Deputy Political Leader of the United National Congress and your presenter for this afternoon's opposition press conference. I hope we made it through the Christmas season with intended peace and goodwill. Today, on behalf of the United National Congress, we continue to be faithful to our mandate to serve all of the people, all of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Today, we look forward to 2024 as a party. The UNC is always filled with optimism, fortified by our faith in our country, which is unwavering. Even in these few remaining days of 2023, the challenges are ever present. Up to today, I'm hearing claims that the Special Reserve Police officers will not pay prior to Christmas, bus drivers will not pay. That is what is in the public domain. People are asking whether the NIB, the National Insurance Board, claim of a hack was just a hack, not to pay. Contractors have not been paid for years. Some have been waiting more recently up to 3 months for payment. The food card handed out to citizens up to today are not working. The hopelessness all around has been brought about by a government populated by mainly lazy amateurs, charlatans, novices, conmen who were never up to the job. Millions squandered in first-class travel, hotels and per diem for the Prime Minister with Stuart Young Velcro at his hip. But for the most part, bringing back nothing of value to this country. Whilst they persist with their Hollywood-style production, many citizens are fighting up to receive a much-needed food card, which even up to today is not working. This food card, perhaps the only option to put food on the table for Christmas, the distribution of which the government knew about 365 days ago. On the 26th of December 2022, they knew the food card in December 25th, but on time for December 25th, 2023. However, can you imagine making us...
Will you just stop for a second?
food was placed on the table, the distribution of which the government was well aware and had 365 days with which to plan, to implement and ensure the card work. Can you imagine keeping a mental check whilst picking up the few items so as not to exceed the $550 limit loaded on the card, only to have the card declined at the cashier because it has $0 from a government who can't care less, because for them, their only policy, the only reason for which they exist is to make the rich richer and the poor, the vulnerable, those who depend on having not a handout but a hand up. They cannot care less. It didn't matter to them that the card was not working in many instances up till today. Many of our poor and vulnerable already believe the deck is stacked against them. They feel unseen, and with every act, the PNM government further strips the citizens of every shred of their dignity, when they could not care enough to this day to ensure that the food cards worked. I have long maintained that the hardest thing is for someone to disclose to the public they are unable to feed themselves or their family. That is not easy. The government's cruel incompetence resulting in the bundling of food card distribution. Many families whom these cards were supposed to assist did not receive it on time for Christmas, or if they did, it just bounced. That probably is a first in Trinidad and Tobago, where a card that should have been already loaded, a preloaded card with some cash, bounced at the point of purchase. MPs were told to return the cards for replacement up to Christmas Eve, as a result of which the leader of the opposition mandated that we go out and assist as many people as we could. I know that the honorable political leader herself was out on the field. Deputy political leader and MP Dr. Rudal Moodilal was outside, MP Michelle Benjamin, and many others. I myself, with Senator David Nakid, went into the communities of Tunapuna and St. Joseph actually on Christmas morning with toys and hampers. And what I found to be remarkable was just about everywhere the overwhelming need, but also the huge pileup of garbage everywhere. Along the priority bus route that is at St. Joseph there, along the Beetham Highway, all about, just garbage. Las Alturas, huge bins of garbage. Up at Mount Dore, huge bins of garbage, where the government did not think or think in advance or believe that people deserve to live with order. They didn't deserve any dignity. As one woman told me over Christmas, I didn't know her, she just bounced up on me. She said, you know, you all are going to win the next election. Rowley don't care about poor people. I am not going to vote for him. And how do you intend to get a handle on crime when the space in which thousands of our citizens are forced to exist remain disorganized, filthy, garbage overflowing everywhere? As the Prime Minister of Singapore, the former Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew once said, anything cannot go. There must be order. And there is where you start. Solving crime will not come from the sky. It wouldn't come, you know, we have this thing that we like this personality solution. You know, so we are looking for Rambo. You remember Rambo with the Drew First Blood. But that is not what is going to solve it. In his third budget, Mr. Embed said, and I quote, Madam Speaker, addressing crime and criminality will continue to be our #1 priority for this country, given its implications for the quality of life of our citizens and for the safety and security of persons wishing to visit, to do business here. The current state of crime in Trinidad and Tobago also has a deleterious effect on foreign and local investment and business activity. It affects our economy and is an issue that comes to the fore in discussions with the business sector and the general population, end quote. It is not often, if ever, I agree with the Minister of Finance, but I agree with him here. But as usual, these were just empty words signifying nothing. Because with the many threats facing us, there is none as egregious as the state of crime and criminality in our country today. As of today's date, approximately 567 of our nationals, just for this year, they will not live to see the end of 2023 because they have been murdered. They didn't die of natural causes. Amongst them are little children. Teenagers slaughtered mercilessly, sometimes in their beds asleep. I reference and remember 6-year-old Kylie Maloney, who was fatally shot at 2:30 a.m. in her bed in Grandy, where all little girls should be at 2:30 a.m. But Christmas of December 2022 was her last one. Christmas 2022 was also the last one for Andre Singh, 16, his cousin Jamal Hakshaw, 19, and their cousin Kiran Madhu, 16. All lived at Boys Lane in Derby, all gunned down at 4:50 in the morning on the 23rd of January of this year. 8-year-old Noel Thomas, he almost made it to Christmas. 8 years with his mother, 40-year-old mother, slaughtered, throat slit in their bed, stabbed in their neck. Yesterday's newspapers, it was reported that Constable Sidney Roberts, who was going to be charged for the murder of Simeon Leslie, 33, and Sanaya Leslie, 35, they were shot in the compound of Courts Mega Store. Her daughter on Christmas morning, 3-year-old daughter, will have to be hugged by strangers, and there will be a void which forever she'll be left with. And Miss Anissa Mohammed had 4 empty chairs at her Christmas table this year, as 4 of her teenage children, all asleep in their bed. Faith Peterkin, 10. Ariana Peterkin, 14. Shane Peterkin, 17. And Tiffany Peterkin, 19. Were all murdered in their sleep this year. The media reached out to their mother. She had said at that time, they killed my children for nothing. They killed my children for nothing. The words of the mother when her 4 children were murdered in their sleep. And when they asked her at Christmas time this year, she said, I'm seeing Christmas things all over, and people are happy and smiling. But I can't join in that, really. Christmas is the last thing on my mind. The world might have moved on, and this is still a deep pain for me. So it's work, home, sleep, repeat. I'm not studying Christmas, really. How can we? Mohammed asked. And you see, Trinidad and Tobago, ladies and gentlemen, many times we move on. After today's headlines, even today's headlines, we will move on. But we leave all of these traumas. People leave. They have to live with the trauma of this overwhelming act that had occurred in their life. This seismic shift in how they live. And when we as opposition speak of these things, the government spokespeople Ghibli tell us, well, it could have been, it's worse in Haiti. It's worse in the Gaza. So as 2024 is upon us, and the next general election looms, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot expect to do the same thing and expect a different result. You cannot vote faithfully for the PNM and then say things were better under the UNC with Kamla. Trinidad and Tobago, if we don't take our country back from the brink, it does not matter if we get dragon gas or not. It doesn't matter how many children get scholarship, if we pave roads or not, if the food card's working or not. In any case, we are just living and eating to die. It ain't matter. Lana Sahadia was murdered yesterday in her house. In her house, standing behind her curtain, most likely hearing, in her last moments, hearing a commotion in the road and just peeping behind her blind to see what the hell going on over there. And that was her last thought. She was killed standing in her house. It could happen to anyone, anywhere. Yesterday, social media was awash with even more gruesome scenes. Not from Haiti or Gaza, but right here on our Churchill Roosevelt Highway. Today, the Guardian newspaper, highway carnage. Highway carnage. In Trinidad, highway carnage. Gunmen ambush. Ambush in Trinidad. This is Trinidad. This is not Gaza. Gunmen ambush. This is what we are reading this morning in what we call Sweet TNT. The Daily Express, innocent woman killed. The Newsday, 4 dead in highway shooting. Right here, 3 killed by assassin bullets. The 4th victim, as I said, Lana Sahadio, killed for daring to peek from the curtains of her upstairs living room window. Dared to draw her blind and was murdered just for that act of looking to see what was happening. You see, Trinidad and Tobago, people are not born to kill other people, as President Mandela said. People have to be taught to hate. So how did we get here? And now that we have found ourselves in this hopeless place, what are we to do? By now, each and every citizen should realize the government has no plan to save your life. They are only interested in their own political power. Forget Hines. because we created the facilitatory environment for hapless Hines. Hines could not be Minister of National Security in any other country on earth. You point to me which country? Anywhere on earth. Not only the Prime Minister. He's not alone to be blamed. But the people of Trinidad and Tobago, the people will suffer through having young people just die in the 2s and the 3s and the 4s. And there was a time they will be pointed at by the government. Again, the government spoke to and said, that's a gang man, and that's a gang woman, and so on. That's how they explained it, because they had no intention of doing anything. So they said, that's all right, they're expendable, they are gang folks. But Islana Sahadio, can you ascribe that to her? This thing has moved out of what they used to describe as hotspots, and now it is everywhere. We cannot continue to tolerate any doctrine of who live, and who dead, because every single one of us must take responsibility and stop blaming the man in the moon. Forget this mythical crime plan. Things are too far gone. They cannot save innocent life. That cannot save innocent lives. Crime plans could only work within structure, within focus, vision, and resolve, with sensible, committed people willing to do the hard, integrated, fundamental work required. Whoever ambushed the 3 yesterdays or others have put out a viral, they already put out a viral voice note, saying the thing now start. And they are warning citizens to stay away from Port of Spain because of some impended reprisal bloodbath. This country, as of 28 December 2023, Trinidad and Tobago, is in a state of total chaos, breakdown, lawlessness, and anarchy. And that is not me being facetious. That is not me engaging in hyperbole. I don't think there is anybody who will disagree with me that we are not in a state of anarchy. We are not descending. We are right here, the barbarians at our door. And getting back to any state of normalcy will take leadership and resolve, who we can and must rally, all of us collectively, to take responsibility, to save our own lives, to become active in our communities, in an all-out effort to restore our country to good order. In that regard, the leader of the opposition, up to New Year's Day, Christmas Eve, on Boxing Day, she had a small caucus. And she has signaled, and maybe in her New Year's message to the country, she will reaffirm her commitment to commence consultations and engagement with the public on this issue of crime, because she believes it is all of us who are in it together, and we must collectively find and work towards the resolution. So starting very early in next month, 2024. Because the Prime Minister has basically abandoned his post and has said who they're dead. And the government, of course, he continues to lead with the blame game, putting plasters on nothing, nonsense, gibberish talk, with no follow-up action, zesting and flexing, and criminals running havoc, young men mainly black, unafraid of dying. As far as they are concerned, when they are 20 years old, they have seen everything. Their eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord, and they could die. They are not afraid of anything. They are not afraid of anyone. So mainly black young men are afraid of dying, killing citizens in broad daylight, invading homes, raping, stealing, and killing. Extortion is widespread and mainstream, and nothing from this government of quacks and invalids who don't appear to believe the children of the women who are the backbone of the PNM, that those children are worth saving. They don't believe that there is need for an intervention from the ground up, an intervention that is fundamental, brick by brick, stone by stone, child by child, school by school, pole by pole, standpipe by standpipe. That's how we have to take it. There is no magic and any miracle here. There is no burning bush. We have to do the hard fundamental work. The then Prime Minister Kamal Prasad Bisesa had recognized the impending storm because it was a long time in coming, but the signs were clear. And what she did was she appointed a cabinet. There was a cabinet committee appointed and chaired by then now deceased Dr. Selwyn Ryan, Professor Emeritus of Political Science at the University of the West Indies, and other members of his team, good, strong, bright citizens of this country, Dr. Indira Ramprasad, Mrs. Patricia Mohammed, Dr. Marjorie Thorpe, and Senator Dr. Lennox Bernard, independent senator at the time. They came up with this report, 436 pages, calling it No Time to Quit, Engaging Youth at Risk. This document, the then Prime Minister had started the work. because they had highly recommended sport, and she started with Hoop of Life and some other interventionist program, mitigating programs. But of course, that was on the desk of somebody when they entered the cabinet room after the elections in 2015. However, nothing was done. 436 pages of good work. Now, I'm not saying it's the entire answer. It's not the entire answer, but it is a good place to start. It is a good starting point because it highlights and prescribes solutions based on social, people-centered, family, community issues, which forms the basis of the answers we seek. Contrary to some opinion, this is not about personality politics, finding a Rambo. When you push, killings is as easy as breathing. That's a famous line from Rambo. I looked at all the Rambos, and I like that because his name was John Rambo. So I have affinity to him, But we have been spoiled and seduced into believing that the solution is a single story or an individual. It is not. It is about every single citizen being mobilized and motivated to be responsible and accountable, and to love their neighbor more than they love themselves. It will take a village. You see, many of the programs, mitigation programs, were shut down over the last 9 years. And there was no thinking about what if and what will be the fallout. It's because the then or now government simply left it to metastasize. So crime is not a Laventille problem. It's not a hotspot problem. It is all over the country. It is a Trinidad and Tobago problem. The solution presented needs political will at all levels of government and civic engagement. So the question is, after 9 years of government, how you feel? What? Because the Selwyn-Ryan Committee places its deliberation and recommendation for development in a concept of human and citizen security, noting that violent crime brings with it a critical cost to society through its loss of human, industrial, and social capital, and the gradual decay of the quality of human liberties and freedoms that are suffered by all, including those who commit the crime. So there were many recommendations. So Trinidad and Tobago, it will take leadership and resolve and an integrated approach in terms of taking us off the brink. Don't continue to be seduced by lazy man thinking that this is a one-man show. This is a 1.3 million man and woman show. And it is only then we will see the peace and community we yearn for. The murders are further compounded by the troubling numbers of missing citizens. The Guardian, I think it was last week, reported 595 persons missing in this little Trinidad and Tobago. It is reported that every day 2 persons goes missing. How you could go missing in Trinidad? I find it sounds impossible, implausible, but it is happening in this country, and no one looks for them, or they are not looking hard enough. How you can't find them? Is it that we have decided we will play God, who live, who we find, and who we don't find, or some people too poor to find? What is it? I find it's a very vexing question. How have we allowed 595? And that is what have been reported. Those are what have been reported. Because, I know of one particular case of these people disappearing into thin air. A young girl by the name of Sade Emmanuel, 20 years old, left home 5 years ago and never returned. And the father and mother, they've been up and down. One day they asked me to come and walk with them in Mamaral, in their community of Mamaral. And I did. I walked in the rain, hoping that we'll catch the government eye. It's because at that time, they would have found some piece of clothing. The father would have recognized it as, identified the piece of fabric as the skirt the daughter was wearing the day she vanished. And at that time, 4 years ago, they were begging and pleading for forensics. After 4 years, this government will not even give them closure. Mrs. Emmanuel has said last year, she gave an interview with the media, she said, she has accepted that her daughter is no longer alive. She said, I know Sade is not alive. It has been too long. And if my child was alive, she would have contacted me a long time ago. She used to call me for everything. Think about that, again, that trauma. We have so many wounded people walking around. She said all she needed now was to lay her child to rest. But more egregious is that someone, because the family cannot get the blood samples, there's no definitive results, or they're waiting on the results of the blood samples. The police, I suppose, cannot proceed with the case. So that's another one who has joined the 18% or the 13% detection rate. You know, well, no, they are not 13. They're 87% of the crimes who have not been detected, who remain unsolved. Is it because Sade is not rich and powerful that even you can't even give her the dignity of death, of a burial, the family, the peace of closure? 5 years now, this government has been giving them a song and a dance. Lazy and useless. Why? Because Sade is not their daughter. She's from Mamoral. She's not from some big shot family. Her parents are humble. All they are guilty of is loving their daughter more than life itself. I am sure if a father could have put himself, I've seen him, I've heard him, he would have put himself in her place. How can we continue to just step over the dead bodies and avert our eyes and conscience to the murdered bodies of our children? Trinidad and Tobago, I'm hoping, as Martin Luther King had said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but that it will bend towards justice. Justice for all of these children like Shadi. Because the brutality of these murders, they are compounded by sexual assault. Thousands of our children are victims of sexual assault and of abuse. They are saying, I think I saw rape is the second most underreported serious crime, child abuse being the first. Official statistics show that between 250 and 300 rapes occur every year in Trinidad and Tobago, but victim surveys suggest the actual rate is about 7 times higher. So that would mean that between 1,700 and 2,000 women are and men and little boys are sexually assaulted annually. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot pray crime away. Charity begins at home. Adults, parents, family members must take responsibility for their children and those left under their jurisdiction and care. Life takes discipline. We all face our challenges. Nobody knows what we are going through, but in my many walks through different communities, I've seen 30-year-old women, almost children themselves, with 5 children, weighed down with the responsibility of finding food, shelter, and clothing for 5 children at 30 years old. The Children Authority says an average of 1,395 reports of child sexual abuse are made to the Children Authority each year. All of these are the issues, that lead to a life of crime when children are facing all of these trauma. The Children Authority said from May 18, 2015 to September 30, 2023, members of the public as well as stakeholders made 10,811 reports of child sexual abuse. I mean, this is a shame. And they say that's just the tip of the iceberg. Just the tip of the iceberg. So, I am saying, as we exit this season of festivities to enter the festival season of Carnival, particularly we have a lot of single mothers, female-led household, that one cannot just meet man or woman at any, for a matter of fact, a Carnival fete online and, you just take them home into your house. You don't know these people. I'm not being judgmental or standing on any soapbox. And I know it is not a single story. But if the cap fits, you are doing the wrong thing at a time when the country needs you to do the right thing. And you need to course correct. Because when you're busy flexing and feeling yourself, thinking your milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, somebody interfering with your children. It is widespread. That too is an epidemic in our country. And we must take responsibility. We must be disciplined. We have to be focused. Those who are guilty of leaving their children unprotected and vulnerable must stop that habit now. I mean, even those who are in state care, the law says at 18 years, you have to leave. And children who would have been regulated, told when to bathe, when to eat, when to sleep, are sent on their way without any oversight, anything to guide them. And what the statistics is telling us is that over 50% of these 18-year-olds who are now, let's say, in their 20s or 19, as it is, could be 19 years, 20 years old, over 50% are pregnant by the time they are 20 years old. Why? Because they go out there, they have nowhere to live, boys and girls, and big men, big women take them in and take advantage of them. So we need a whole revival in this country in terms of who we are as a people. We have to go back to ground zero. I think we have to stop Trinidad on the night of 31st December 2023 and start over. Because everything is now just out of control. So a big part of getting crime under control is the strengthening of the family unit, which ultimately leads to resilient communities. Again, it takes a village.
Our citizens have been so frustrated with the crime epidemic, they are calling on the police to bring more relief. What I've been hearing lately makes a lot more sense, because I think we are coming around to realizing that the police alone cannot deal with crime. They certainly need to do way better than the stats recently disclosed by the Minister of National Security, where the detection and solve rates for the period September 2022 to September 23 stand at just 18%. This means 82% of the crime goes undetected. So out of every 100 crimes committed, only 18 are detected. So the biggest deterrent is if you know you will be caught. That is one of the biggest deterrent. Part of it, we have to stop it at its root to have better communities, healthier communities, well-organized communities, disciplined communities, people who look out for each other kind of communities. That is what we have to do. Communities where they pick up the garbage, where they trim trees, where they have potholes everywhere, where everything just looks like a mess, that anything could go. We have to start there. We have to deal with the schools, the fighting, the vicious fighting. I've never seen anything like that in my life, and I don't want to date myself. And after all, it's not because of money, because over the last, from 2015 to 2022, $48 billion have been allocated to the Ministry of National Security. So it's not dollars, it's about sense and hard work. Winston Churchill said, a country gets the government they deserve. At only 4% larceny solved, officers solved just 43 cases out of 1,090. And then, of course, we have human trafficking. And all these manner of evil. So be focused as we come into 2024, knowing that another year of this, living under these conditions, is untenable. Looking at the wasteland this country has become, where it has been normalized for a young woman to be raped and murdered. It is commonplace for 6-year-old little girls to be murdered, sleeping in their beds, for a 9-year-old to be murdered, running on a playing field. The murder of our little children has been normalized. So we don't stand even to insist that the government give us the barest minimum of working and monitored cameras. Pepper spray, none of that. We don't stand up. And basically, we as a people have to stand and demand better of the people who have decided that they want to, well, not manage us because we are not being managed, but rule us. So ladies and gentlemen, as this 2023 comes to a close, 2024 is a good time for reflection and renewal. As we step into the new year, let us not only reflect on the challenges we face, but also focus on the power we hold as a united nation of Trinidad and Tobago. The trials of the past year have underscored the need for Trinidad and Tobago to change, for us to change as a people, for us to change our expectation, for us to change in terms of our empathy, for us to change in being able to stand up and speak out, not only on our own behalf, but on behalf of others, those who are vulnerable. I want to assure that the United National Congress remains unwavering in its commitment to be a force for good and to enable change as we look towards the new year, hopefully a time of promise and change. So peace, love, safety for 2024. I thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Do you believe that the state relevant ministry and the government itself owes food card holders, recipients, an apology?
They owe them efficiency in the first place. And so, but of course, they owe them an apology. This is untenable. You know, I mean, can you imagine, Mr. Samaru, you're a journalist, so you'll be close to what is happening on the ground. So you know you're not a politician, so you wouldn't amplify things for your own good. You just report in the news, okay? I'm just saying that. So therefore, you know people suffering out there. So can you imagine a mother or a father counting the 10 fingers and the 10 toes? Already when you're poor, you feel shut out, you feel vulnerable, you feel as if nobody cares, you feel as if you don't matter, your life may matter. And then you go up to the cashier and this thing not working. The whole line behind you seeing this thing is working. So they owe people more than an apology. The minister need to go. This is totally untenable. How much will we tolerate? How much? It's too much.
What about in terms of compensation?
Well, what is compensation? All people ask for is that the card work,
Financial compensation.
For the people.
Yeah, do you think it calls for that?
No, I think they just need a card that works. If you say $550 on the card, just give me a card that works. What is so hard about that? And it's not only the Ministry of Social Development, they also involved is our premier bank, First Citizens Bank. They all should be ashamed. They all should be ashamed because these are fat cats, drawing big salaries and getting big bonuses. And they don't care that somebody get $550 that could save a life.
You spoke about the brazen shooting yesterday along the Churchill Roosevelt Highway.
Yes.
That again brings up the topic of when are you all going to have these proposed anti-crime talks between the opposition and the government? We're getting a lot of back and forth. We heard the Prime Minister said he's already named his team. He has already said he's not coming. So what's the next move? I mean, how long are we going to talk about it before we actually do?
No, the leader of the opposition has signaled that she will be out early in the new year engaging with the population.
Not with the population, but
pardon?
With the government. I'm not talking about the talks with the population.
No, but she's gone past the government. The government not serious. The government can't be serious. The point is, talk wouldn't solve crime. At the end of the day, the Constitution gives the opposition no power. We have no power. All we can do is to say these are our plans. And basically, you would have heard me talk about this document that the Honorable Leader Kamala would have, at her time as Prime Minister, would have commissioned. Right? Because she believes we have to take it from the ground up. It's not only, then again, Dr. Rowley would have signaled he's only interested in legislation. So what he's looking to do is probably to engage the opposition in terms of, will you support me in this piece of legislation? We are of the opinion that they have been there, they have done that. That ain't working. Because you can't just lock up people and throw the keys away and have them in jail for 10 years without even trial. Because then again, because there's a jam session inside of there, even that isn't working. So, it's every element, every step along the way, nothing works. So we have to unravel this entire system.
So is that it then? Is that it? No crime talks between government and opposition?
No, the leader of the opposition has said she's open, but she wants to meet with the leader of the country. What is she going to meet with an intermediary to talk about? With that Mr. Dr. Rowley at this point in time must show that he's serious. How much people have to die? Okay, so they used to die by 1, they're dying by 2, now they're dying by 4. Is it that multiplication? They go die by 8 and then die by 16 and then the government go say, we have a problem? Houston, we have a problem? What are they waiting on? We have a problem. And any serious Prime Minister, good, bad, or indifferent, would have found themselves with us. And it's even about swallowing your pride is your responsibility to the people. You owe us that.
You mentioned UNC taking the talks to the ground from January next year.
Yes.
You also mentioned that a lot of crimes are being perpetrated by young men of African descent and how the government has failed them. Does the UNC have its intervention plan for that particular demographic? Will they be a part, and will those communities be a part of those crime talks in 2024?
Well, listen, you don't treat people, well, okay, let us say you don't treat people as a particular project in that sense. You have to be fair to the entire country. And certainly, when you create jobs, when you create 150 jobs, or over a 5-year period, you build 8,000 houses, who you think are the beneficiary? Right? It's everybody, particularly the population that is vulnerable. That population is not only the houses, the end result, but the work created, the jobs created. This country was almost overheating with jobs. Because what you have to do is to present healthy alternative. That's what people don't have. When you go into a community, it has literally nothing. I mean, you might have the corner parlor, the whatever. Who is the employer in some of these communities? It's the man with the gun who looking prosperous with the big gold chain and he pants down under his butt or however, they do the flexing. That's the guy. So the young people are impressionable. They're looking for something. They need something. They need to work. They need to eat. They need to help their family. That is what is obvious. But if you give them healthy alternatives, many people will turn to that. They will grab it. When I campaigned up in La Joquita, I was shocked at the number of young men who gravitated towards agriculture. I was amazed. And they themselves were saying, imagine I getting up early at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm here watering plants, tending. They were excited every day to see how far the plant got to. Then to reap and to go to the market in Grandy and sell whatever they produce. And you build on these things. There are many interventions. You don't have to start from going crime all over the world. And there are many successful measures that have worked all over the world. And we were doing a lot of good things. Number one is education as the way out of poverty. I'm from Charlottesville, Tobago, proudly. You know, and because of education, I can stand here and address the country through you. In addition, education, without education, the schools have collapsed. When we are out, many times when we are doing these political meetings, I have the honor of going to some schools. You can know the denominational schools, and I'm saying it, it's frank. A lot of them are clean, well-organized, toilet papers in the you go to the government school, it's a total mess, shambles. The toilet dark, it's dirty, the floor is wet, and so on. Who is to blame? It's about management. It's management. It's about consciousness. It's wanting better. It's every step of the way you have to teach a child. You have to train a child. When a child bring home something, in Charlottesville, they bring home a pen that isn't, you better find the owner of that pen before the night is out. And your grandmother will clout you, or your mother will clout you. And when you go to carry back the pen and say, you know, I took this pen, the person you're handing to will clout you also. So you're coming crying and you're going back crying. That's how you teach, sometimes, I mean, it's brutal, but that's how you teach values. We are not teaching our children anything. And that's what is happening because mothers are busy and depressed and working and what have you, being paid a minimum wage. And everybody is just being pressed down because the whole country is just in a state of depression and they can't find themselves with any way out. And I'm saying because the government they have really not created many opportunities and they're running along this elusive dragon and basically they have forgotten all of the other opportunities. They're not talking about diversifying the economy. Nobody cares about that. So if the dragon stop dancing, we are tied to this thing, it dance, we happy, we eat it, dance, we sad. What's going on? This country is not stirring. There's hardly any economic opportunity, activity. What you probably have, you have some buying and selling going on. Right? People go wherever, they buy their container and they come in. But the creativity, they have killed it. You know, they squeeze out the forex. Well, big story we heard recently about a particular group that they're so lucky, they're getting so much that they could think to see, they want to see dead people. And all they could have done is to go on Churchill Roosevelt, they would have seen 4 yesterday, you know, for free.
My final question with respect, you mentioned murders, you mentioned sexual assault, robberies.
Yes.
Yesterday, the National Insurance Board faced a cyber attack, one of quite a few this year. I don't have to impress the wealth of information the NIB holds with everyone's business.
Yes.
How much is the United National Congress looking forward to the proposed cybercrime legislation that is coming? And how imperative it is that you think we get on the legislative agenda early in 2024? And will you all be working closely with the government with at least a common goal to strengthen that mechanism?
Well, sir, legislation will help, I suppose. But you have to investigate, find and prosecute also successfully, and we really we have not been doing that very well. Anything that the leader of the opposition has committed over and over, that anything that is in the interest of the country, she will do her best with her team to support and assist the government. But that is not all. It's more than the legislation. Organizations have to understand that this ransomware will find places that are vulnerable. And here we have a way that maybe we might buy a piece of software, but there's no maintenance, or there's no money for maintenance, as it will. We always fall short. And there are two schools of thought. One is that the NIB is broke, or the government has run out of money. I tell you that's the wild rumor, you know, China is a land of rumors. But and so they're saying the hack is really probably a hack. But let us say it is serious. I'm hoping that it is, because what I must commend them for is that they have been upfront. They have treated us differently than TSTT. We are still waiting for TSTT to tell us about what has happened and the consequences of their hack. But NIB, they have actually been upfront and said there has been a hack. So we are also calling for state agencies, large businesses, small, as best as they can afford, to strengthen the backbone of their security. And this is not an 8 to 4 issue now. This is a 24-hour issue, because the world is a 24-hour world, and these ransomware people or cyber attackers, it's a business to them, it's a hustle. You know, because when they get your data, they hold it until you pay them money, as it were. So we can't be foolish. You know, we have to behave as if it's going to happen, and invariably it does, but we have to ensure that we have all the guardrails up. And basically, what happens next in terms of the mitigating strategies? We can't just sit down and leave them with our information on the dark web, etc. There must be a whole range of protocol that is followed really studiously all the time. Okay, so thank you again so much. As I said before, I really, really hope for the next few days of 2023, that we safely enter 2024, because anything can happen at any time. Thanks again.